Yeah, you are frozen
You seem
out.
to be frozen and
Am I
breaking up.
frozen or?
Wave your hand, Dennis.
Oh,
No, you seem to be
Is it
frozen.
now.
moving?
There, you're moving now.
I'll go out and back in. I'm back in.
okay.
Chris has gone to get a cable, so I guess that is the correct way.
Okay, who is starting the meeting?
I thought Jeanette was
That
going
you,
to
Mr.
start
Warden?
it. I thought Jeanette was going to start it because we have to have an election, but
Yeah,
is that right,
So
Kelly?
We do need a staff member to start this.
Are you there, Kelly?
Doesn't appear
Apparently you
like,
have to
Jeanette's not
unmute. I
coming
didn't
through.
realize that. Yes, the first order of business is the election of the chair, which the clerk will conduct.
Hi, is everybody able to hear me?
I
yes.
am now.
Okay, sorry. I guess I wasn't coming through. My apologies. So it is 4 o'clock, so we will call the meeting to order, and I'm just looking for nomination for the chair.
I nominate Ron Higgins.
Is there a seconder for that?
I'll second it.
Yes,
Okay, and are there any other nominations for the chair? Sorry, Deputy Warden Doyle, did you want to make another nomination for the chair?
No, I couldn't hear who was nominated.
Councillor Higgins.
Okay, good. I'm okay with that.
Okay, so seeing no other nominations, can I get a mover to close nominations?
I shall move that.
And a seconder, Councillor Smith? And all those in favor?
aye.
So that's carried. So could I now have a nomination for the vice chair?
I nominate Francis Smith.
I second that.
And are there any other nominations for vice chair?
I'll move nominations closed.
And is there a seconder for that? And all those in favor? And that's carried. So Councillor Higgins, I will.
We usually, you usually ask if we accept the nomination or not.
I was just going to do that. So Councillor Higgins, do you accept the nomination of chair?
I do.
And Councillor Smith, do you accept the nomination as vice chair?
I do.
Okay, so Councillor Higgins, I will turn the meeting over to you.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. So we're at the, is there any disclosures of pecuniary interest or nature thereof? Okay, I'm seeing none. So at this point in the juncture, Jeanette, do I read the procedure for public meetings?
That is correct.
Okay. So I'll read the procedure for public meetings as directed under the Planning Act respective to the Willowbrook Estates Subdivision Phase 2. The Planning Advisory Committee is conducting a public meeting under the Planning Act with respect to Willowbrook Estates Subdivision Phase 2. I'll now ask the Manager of Legislative Services Clerk to advise the method by which notice of the meeting was given and confirmation as to the date that the notice was given. If you can do that, Jeanette, please.
Yes, so pursuant to the requirements of the Planning Act, a notice of the statutory public meeting was provided by advertisement in the form of a sign posted on the subject site 20 days in advance of the public meeting. In addition, notices were sent by mail to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject property, according to the latest tax assessment rules.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jeanette. Any persons who wish to receive a copy of the minutes of the public meeting, a copy of the report on Willowbrook Estates Subdivision Phase 2, or notice of the decision of Willowbrook Estates Subdivision Phase 2 should indicate their full name, their address, their postal code, and contact numbers to the clerk prior to leaving the meeting. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting, could I ask for can we mute the computers, please? If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the County of Frontenac before the proposed Willowbrook Estates Subdivision Phase 2 being approved or adopted, the person or public body. Deputy Warden.
Sorry, Councillor Higgins, you have been muted. If you could just unmute yourself. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Where did you last hear me? Okay, I'll just start where I think I might have lost everybody. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the County of Frontenac before the proposed Willowbrook Estates Subdivision Phase 2 being approved or adopted, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decisions of the County of Frontenac to the Ontario Land Tribunal, OLT for short, and may not be added as a party to the hearing of the appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. The procedure for the public meeting will be as follows. The county's director of planning or manager of community planning will be asked to explain the purpose of the public meeting. The applicant will then be provided with an opportunity to discuss the Willowbrook Estates Subdivision Phase 2. I will then inquire if there are any persons present who wish to make oral or written submissions on the proposed Willowbrook Estates Subdivision Phase 2. If so, you should announce your name and state whether you support or oppose the Willowbrook Estates Subdivision Phase 2. We will first hear from those in support of the Willowbrook Estates Subdivision Phase 2. Then we will hear presentations from those opposed to Willowbrook Estates Subdivision Phase 2. Should there be any other persons wishing to make comments on or ask questions about Willowbrook Estates Subdivision Phase 2, they will then be given an opportunity to address the committee. The applicant will also be given an opportunity to respond to issues arising from the public comments. Please be aware that all persons wishing to address the issues should direct their comments and questions through the chair, that's being myself. I would also note that personal information collected as a result of this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Municipal Act, the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, the Planning Act, and all relevant legislations, and will be used to assist in making a decision on this matter. All personal information as defined by the MFI-PPA, the Privacy Act, including but not limited to names, addresses, opinions, and comments collected, will be made available for public disclosure to members of the public at the meeting through requests and through the website of the Corporation of the County of Frontenac. Questions regarding the collection, use, and disclosure of this personal information may be directed to the Manager of Legislative Services / Clerk. Once all the submissions have been heard, I will make an announcement that the meeting will be closed, and I'll go through that when we get to that point. So with that, I'll turn it over to the County Director of Planning or the manager. Joe, I'm not sure who's going to be doing the presentation, but if you and your team would like to take it from here, please.
Thank you, Mayor Higgins. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask Sonia Bolton, our Manager of Community Planning, to lead you through this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Good evening, everyone. I'm here. I'm very pleased. I really wish I could be meeting all of you in person. I've met some of you virtually before, but it's a real pleasure to be here. I am the new manager of community planning for the County of Frontenac, and tonight, as has been stated, we are here for the statutory public meeting for Phase 2 of the Willowbrook Estates subdivision. Now, as Jeanette had noted, notice for the public meeting was given in accordance with the Planning Act. And this particular proposal is within the settlement area of Inverary, which is part of South Frontenac, and it is just off of Perth Road near Willowbrook Drive. The submission was received just last year in October, and it was deemed complete on November 27th of 2020. This is actually a resubmission. So there previously was draft plan approval for this subdivision, but the conditions lapsed before final approval was given. So this is technically a resubmission of a previous plan of subdivision. I'm not going to go into the proposal in too much detail right now. The applicant's agent is on the line with us tonight, and I believe he has a short presentation that he would like to give to the committee members, talking a little bit more detail about the proposal itself. In terms of process, though, I can tell you that prior to the public meeting, there was a virtual open house for this proposal back on December 16th in 2020. There were no members of the public who attended that virtual open house at that time. The staff, both of the county as well as the Township of South Frontenac and the Conservation Authority, are currently undertaking a technical review of the file and all the submissions that came along with it. And in terms of next steps, obviously this afternoon we are here to receive questions and comments from both members of the committee as well as the public with respect to the file. We will then be finishing up our technical review and looking for a set of draft conditions from the Township of South Frontenac. Following all of that, we will be preparing a final report with a recommendation that will be brought back to this committee at a future meeting date. So at this point, Mr. Chair, if it's appropriate, I think we could perhaps ask the applicant's agent if they would like to provide the additional information to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to ask the clerk a question. Jeanette, do we go through the process as outlined in the procedure I just announced, or do I go through the agenda, go through 5, 6, 7, and 8 first?
I believe what you read was 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Okay. Well, we didn't adopt the agenda or anything like that.
Oh, no, you're in a public meeting portion first. So we will adopt the agenda of the regular meeting after the public meeting. The public meeting is technically a separate meeting.
Okay, thank you. With that, then I'll open up to the applicant to provide a presentation to council or to the planning committee.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And if I could.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. And can everyone see my screen? You should have a slide with black borders on the sides and an aerial image in the center.
Yep, we have it on the screen.
Thank you, everyone, and good afternoon. My name is Yuko Leclerc. I am a registered professional planner with FO10 Planning and Design, presenting this application for draft plan of subdivision for the Willowbrook Estates subdivision phase 2 on behalf of Tegas Land Holdings and Development. As indicated, the property is located in the Inverary settlement area. It has a total area of just under 8.5 hectares, or a little over 20 acres, a little over 350 meters of frontage along Perth Road, and exactly 26 meters of frontage at the terminus of Summerside Drive. It's in an area that has sort of a mix of uses, but to the immediate west, for example, is a wetland. To the south and to the east are residential uses. And to the north is undeveloped land, which is zoned for commercial use. I'll note that the residential uses to the immediate south constitute phase 1 of the Willowbrook Estates subdivision. From a policy perspective, in terms of the context, the county's official plan identifies Inverary as a settlement area, but leaves it up to the township to determine the exact boundaries of that settlement area. In the township's official plan, as you can see on this slide, which I have an excerpt showing the subject site, the property falls within the boundary of Inverary. In terms of its zoning, it's zoned R28 in the Township of South Frontenac zoning bylaw. The R28 zone generally adds a minimum lot area requirement and a minimum lot frontage requirement that are less than is typical for the R zone. The intent of the application, as noted by Ms. Bolton, is to reestablish draft plan of subdivision approval. Previously, the applicant applied for and received draft plan of subdivision approval for the entirety of the Willowbrook Estates development. Phase 1 was registered and development proceeded. Phase 2 was not registered prior to the lapsing date and was inadvertently allowed to lapse. So we have sought to reestablish that draft approval over these lands so that development can proceed.
Yoko, can I ask a question? Is all the lots listed here all phase 2, or is it just on the one side of the road? Is that all phase 2 that you're showing us?
Thank you. Yes. So this slide is showing an excerpt, is showing the entirety of the draft plan that is the subject of the application. So it is phase 2 consists of these 9 residential lots, this northerly extension of Summerside Drive. In light green, you can see there is a small block. This is intended as a pedestrian connection across to Perth Road. And then the dark green on the slide is showing a block that's intended to be conveyed, to be effectively wetland and combined with the adjacent wetland to the west, Mr. Chair. These lots all comply with the zoning, with the R28 zone. So they comply with the minimum frontage and minimum lot area requirements. And the lots are all sized so that each lot can accommodate a dwelling and septic system, all of which would comply with the performance standards of the current zoning. That is, of course, deliberate and is no accident because this was all developed as part of a master plan development. There was a prior rezoning to establish the zoning that exists on the land today, which was done as part of the overall development of Willowbrook Estates. So there's no proposed change to that zoning bylaw. From a policy perspective, I won't dwell on this. It is covered in the planning reports that are included with the submission. But at a very high level, the County of Frontenac's official plan and the Township of South Frontenac official plans both encourage development and would like to see, a majority of new development to occur within the hamlet boundaries. And that's where this site is located. So it falls within the policy framework of these policy documents. It's also in part why it was originally supported that the lots be a little bit smaller. Certainly the technical studies that have been completed support the smaller lot sizes, but because of the policy framework encouraging a more efficient land use within the settlement areas, smaller lot sizes were supported at that time. I noted technical supporting studies. There were a suite of supporting studies submitted as part of the original submission, the original applications that were submitted again when we applied to reestablish draft approval. There were a number of updates required as well because of the time that had lapsed from the original completion of these reports and I guess fall of last year when we resubmitted. So then there was an ecological impact assessment that was updated, and just this past spring, a meadowlark survey was completed. The hydrogeological and terrain analysis that was originally completed was updated, as was the stormwater management report. A traffic impact assessment was also completed to assess the functionality of the existing intersection at Willowbrook Drive and Perth Road. As part of that submission, there was also a planning rationale report completed. I'll note that we have been through one round of technical review with county staff and with supporting agencies. So the plan that I've spoken to this evening is the plan that was submitted in response to the technical comments that have been received. So very minor adjustments were provided at this time. And as part of our resubmission, as part of our second submission, I should say, A detailed set of civil engineering design drawings were included for staff to review. I've also noted on this slide all of the review agencies and bodies that have provided comments thus far and who we anticipate further comments as the technical review continues. In summary, it's certainly our opinion that this proposed subdivision is consistent with the provincial policy statement. It represents a form of development that is compatible with the rural settlement area. It considers and is considerate of the natural heritage features on the site, in particular the wetland to the west. It conforms to both the county and township official plans and complies with all requirements of the Township of South Frontenac zoning bylaw, and in our opinion represents good land use planning. And with that, I thank this committee for my time, for your time, excuse me, and I welcome any questions or comments. And I will leave my slides up until advised otherwise, if that's helpful.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Yoko. Is there any questions from the committee for Yoko?
Chair.
Can we, yes, go ahead. You have to speak up because I can only see 4 people on the screen. Go ahead, Ron.
Okay, it's not really a question. I just got a phone call from Phil Leonard. He cannot get connected, so he won't be joining.
Well, thank you. And I'll just ask one more time, is there any other questions for Yoko before I open it up to the public?
Maybe we could take the slide down and then we can see everybody.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then we can put it up if we need it. Thank you. Jeanette, is there any members of the public on the call?
Not that I'm aware of. There are some staff members from the Township of South Frontenac, but no members from the public.
Okay.
Perhaps
because
Jasmine could confirm that.
Jasmine, can you confirm? Maybe I'll just make the call just to make sure I follow procedure. I'm going to ask if there's anybody that supports the Willowbrook as subdivision application. If there's anybody that is in favor and would like to comment, please do so.
Sorry, I was just looking up something else. What was the question?
Just wanted to know if there's any members of the public on this call.
As far as I'm aware, it's just the people that were invited as registered panelists. Yep.
Okay.
I'm trying to get permission for Dimitri to be able to speak, and I'm just trying to find that right now. So if you'll bear with me for a moment.
Okay, while you do that, I'm going to ask, just in case there is members of the public, and I already asked if there's anybody in favor has any comments. Is there anybody opposed to this development from the general public that would like to comment? Okay, I haven't heard any comments either from those in favor or those opposed, so just move on to the next step. I did have a question, probably for the South Frontenac people. You've reviewed this, updated, you have no concerns?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think the staff from South Frontenac are listing as participants right now, but they have not been transferred over to be panelists. So we would have to have them transferred over in order to answer questions.
Maybe I'll ask Warden Vanderwall if he's heard anything, then I'll ask Dennis he has a question after.
No concerns.
Thank you. Have you had a question, Councillor Doyle?
Yes, it's in the material in the package, the committee information report. Under background, it does say that on November 27th, 2021, the application was deemed complete, and I think that's a typo. I think it's 2020. I just wanted to clarify just to make sure we correct the record.
That's correct. Thank you. It was it should be of 2020 last year. unless we're really
Okay.
efficient and ahead of the ball. But yes, you're correct. In
Yeah.
this case, it's 2020.
Well, just for the record, maybe we change that. Thank you.
I think the last meeting you caught something like that too, Dennis. You got quite the eyeball.
I used to be an auditor one time.
Councillor Smith, you had a question?
No, just a comment. I think this is an excellent little subdivision, 9 lots. It's well put together, and I think it's good planning, and I would certainly support it.
All right. Okay, I'll make one last call for questions before I conclude the meeting. Is there any other final comments or questions? Okay, we're hearing none. That concludes the meeting. So I'll just read what I have to read as part of the Municipal Act. The public meeting is now concluded. I would like to remind any persons wishing to receive additional information to provide their full name, their address, postal code, and contact numbers to the clerk prior to leaving the meeting. County staff will prepare a report for consideration by the Planning Advisory Committee at a future meeting. The committee will then make recommendations to County Council. All background reports and related correspondence will be placed in a publicly accessible location on the internet. I just have one question for Sonia. Sonia, it says we have to get a report coming back from county staff to the Planning Advisory Committee. What would that report include that we're not hearing here today? And do we need another meeting?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So what will happen with that report is there will be a full planning review from our staff in terms of how the proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement, the official plan about the county and the township, and the zoning. And it will also include any final technical comments from the township, from the Conservation Authority, and it will set out the recommendation that we make with respect to the proposal and our justification for that recommendation.
Thank you. So with that, the public meeting is now concluded, and we'll move on to the regular agenda.
Very much. Have a good evening.
So we need adoption. Oh, by the way, thank you, Yoko, for your presentation. Good luck. Adoption of the agenda. So need a mover or a seconder to approve the agenda for the June 9th, 2020. So moved by Councillor Smith, second by Lisa. All in favor? Carried. I'm going to ask, is anybody opposed from this point forward? Adoption of the minutes. So the minutes are being held October 14th, 2020. So we need a motion that the minutes of the Planning Advisory Committee meeting held on that date be adopted. Moving her in a seconder, please. Warden Vanderwall, Deputy Warden Doyle. Any comments or questions on those minutes? All in favor? I was supposed to say, are anybody opposed? Carried. We don't have any deputations or presentations. Next on the agenda is a briefing by Joe Galvin, Director of Planning Economic Development. Do you want to give us a briefing and overview of your activities, Joe?
Thank you, Warden, Deputy Warden, and members of the committee. Thanks for taking the time today. And it's been a while since we've talked, so I wanted to make sure that you have an idea of what we've been doing over the last year and where we're going. I don't have control of the slides. I don't know if Jeanette does or Jasmine, if they can bring it up, or Sonia.
Thanks, Dennis.
Dennis has control.
Looks better than looking at me.
Joe, I do have it up on my other screen here, so I'm happy to share that. If
Please, please do that.
Okay, just one
Sonia?
second here. I just have to get it to fit the actual size. Just bear with me. I think I have the whole agenda open and it does something with the sizing, so I will bring up. No, wrong one.
Be nice. Our next meeting should be live, so we'll be finished with all these internet meetings.
Amen.
No. Joe, unfortunately, I don't have the final PowerPoint. I will share my screen, but I'm going to have to play with the sizing because it's the whole agenda. So just bear with me here.
Thank you.
Aha, okay, this may work.
Thank you. The IT department doesn't want me to do any of this stuff. We're good.
I'm not sure I'm a great second, Joe, but we'll do our best here. Can everybody see that now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll start. So thank you again for your patience. Can you go to the next one, please, Sonia?
There we go.
So first of all, where are we right now? So as it stands today, all staff are continuing to work from home most of the time. Sonia and I are trying to get into the office, and we have been doing that, but the other planners, they've mostly been working from home, and it's worked out quite well. It's not had any impact on our efficiencies in terms of dealing with applications online or anything. We are, as a team, both the planning side and the economic development side, we're having virtual staff meetings every Tuesday morning and every Friday morning to keep each other up to date and just to communicate better. And it's worked very well over the last 15 whatever months. As you know, we've had virtual committee meetings, both at the county level, but also with the townships committees of adjustment. And we've been having virtual pre-consultation meetings, and they're continuing as of today, but that may change fairly soon. In the last 6 to 8 months, we have put up online planning consultation forms on each of the 3 townships' websites. And that comes out of the lean process improvement program that Ms. Ruckwald, Megan Ruckwald, led with Ms. Claire Dodds over the last 2 years from South Frontenac. Claire and Megan led that, working with all township staff, and at least in the 3 townships that we cover, they're online. They're helping us be more efficient because we tell people if they have an idea, can they please fill out the forms before we have formal consultation? And for lack of better words, the people who are kicking tires on properties, if they really aren't serious, they don't submit the form. So that saves time for us. We are continuing to do site visits. That will continue. And the last bullet is we're waiting for the June 14th direction, and that's changed to June 12th. There hasn't been any formal county position on staffing and return to work, but I know that Kelly is working on that as we speak. Next, please. So I'll turn this over to Sonia quickly, new staff that we have in the department.
Hey, thank you, Joe. Well, first of all, there's myself, but I joined end of January, beginning of February. So it certainly was a very different experience to start a job virtually, but everybody has been very welcoming. So I'm certainly happy to be on board. And in addition to that, in April, we were able to welcome Dmitry Kurlovich, who is one of our new community planners. I know that last year for this year's budget, County Council approved the hiring of an additional community planner, which I think, as you'll see a few slides from now, has certainly been extremely helpful to us in terms of managing the workload that we've had, particularly with our day-to-day operations with the 3 townships that we serve for applications as well as inquiries. So Dmitry actually comes to us from the Niagara Escarpment Commission. So he is well versed in dealing with development proposals in environmentally sensitive areas. I think he is on the call tonight. I'm not sure if he's been made a panelist or not.
Yes, yeah, I'm here, Sonia.
Oh, hi, Dmitry. I'm not sure if everybody can see you with the slides up, but thank you for joining us, and thank you for being on board. It's been great to have you as part of the team.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy to join the team here at the county. I mean, I've hit the ground running, hopefully, and hopefully we'll be able to get some good projects off the ground. I know I've met some of the members here tonight virtually, but I am looking forward to meeting everybody in person once we get back to normal. So thank you.
Yeah, Dimitri and I are both looking forward to doing more site visits and more visits out to the various townships to actually see people in faces, in person, sorry, and see faces, not just faces on a screen. So great, thank you.
Well, welcome to you
Thank you
both.
very much.
Yeah, welcome Dimitri and Sonia. Sorry we haven't met yet. Sonia's been here since February, and here we are in June. We still haven't seen you in person, but welcome. I'm sure Jenny really appreciates. Oh, I just saw a comment. Jenny really appreciates both of you.
Well, I think in lieu of being able to clone Jenny, we're glad we're on board too, because I think, again, as you're going to see a few slides from now, that there's been quite a lot of work happening behind the scenes, even prior to our arrival. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sonia. And for those members of council, again, I want to thank you for approving our budget last year to bring in the new planner. And you'll see here in a few moments, I don't know where we'd be right now if we didn't have an additional planner, and Jenny would be burning out. Dimitri's an excellent acquisition to the team. It's going to carry us forward over the next few years. And it's, you know, I think we're all feeling a little more comfortable that we're going to be able to stay in control of all of the applications we're dealing with. As for Sonia, I've known Sonia for over 20 years. She's got an extensive planning background. I actually hired her as a summer planning student back in when you were 15, Sonia, in 2000, the year 2000?
Not technically, but I'm okay if we want to go with that. Thanks, Joe.
So we're very fortunate. Yeah, we're very fortunate to have both Dimitri and Sonia on board. So let's talk about the planning hours we've been doing with the 3 townships. And this chart, just so the committee's aware, the beginning of every year, I prepare a memorandum to the 3 CAOs of the townships where we provide planning services. As part of the shared services planning agreement, I endeavor to give them an annual update about what we've done over the last year so they can understand where our costs are. And so they've seen this chart. And just give you an example, if you look at that straight line, township planning hours, which include both day-to-day planning applications and also include some of the policy work. So for example, the North Frontenac OP, we were involved in that in 2016 and part of 2017. Some of the work, well, the Central Frontenac official plan that we're almost done with, but we've been working on for the last 3 years. The Marysville secondary plan on Frontenac Islands, those kinds of hours are also included in these total hours, but you can see even between 2019 and 2020, we had more than 300 extra hours, which is a 21% increase year over year. And I can advise the committee of those almost 1,900 hours in 2020. More than 85% of those hours were planning application hours. It really affected in 2020 our ability to do planning policy work, and it affected the time we had available, for example, to finish things like the Central Frontenac official plan. Last year was crazy everywhere in Eastern Ontario, and I know Ms. Dodds had the same level of activity in South, but you can see the hours have increased. So if you go back to 2016, between 2016 and 2020, that's almost a 70% increase in hours, in part because we've got more planners, but also the volume of activity. Next, please. Again, this spreadsheet was included in the memorandum to the CAOs, but I've circled 2020. And if you look at the extra hours we spent between 2019 and 2020 in North, an extra 175 hours roughly, and in Central, we went from 675 to 840. A slight dip in the islands, almost the same, but at the end of the day, you can see that that we were busy. And the 3-year share you see at the bottom of the screen percentage-wise, that factors into the costs of our planning services because we do a 3-year rolling average. The good news is, even though the costs are going up in our planning services because of the hours we're putting in, even that represents more development activity, more tax assessment. So that's the good news. And the other thing I should make the committee aware is, as part of the shared services agreement, there was a phase in of costs. As of 2021, 100% of our costs will be paid by the townships. And I'll speak to that later about how we're going to try to find efficiencies. So now I'm going to turn it over to Sonia to talk to you about what's been happening over the short term. Sonia?
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, so the slide here that's up in front of you now has a chart on it showing the planning applications and the number of applications by township over the last 5 years. I apologize, some of the labels sort of went their own direction here, so I'll just speak briefly to the bottom line shows, which is on my screen showing in gray, is for Frontenac Islands. Above that we have North Frontenac in blue, and then this red line actually is Central Frontenac. And really at the top, the real telling story is just overall in yellow here is the number of applications. So in 2020, there were 104 applications across the 3 townships that we serve that were processed. And that's a lot of reports, a lot of presentations and meetings. And the overall linear average is shown here in a dotted line. Something that's not shown on this graph is appeals. I would call it the LPAP, but they've changed their name again within the last week. I think they're now part of a larger tribunal group being called the Ontario Land Tribunals. But there were a couple of appeals last year, I think in North Frontenac, and we've received a couple more for North Frontenac recently. But that's just part of the nature. The more applications you get, the more opportunities there are potentially for conflicts and to receive appeals. We certainly always welcome the opportunity to settle so that we don't have to go to a full hearing. But as we are getting more applications, we are getting applications that are more complex. They're located on smaller lots of record. They're much more difficult to process. They don't necessarily process as quickly. There are a lot more studies required. So in general, there is a continual projected upward climb of the number of applications that we have seen. Hence why we're very happy to have Dimitri online as well. We're just going to go to the next slide here. So plan applications reached, as I said, a total of 104 in 2020. And so far this year, so in the first 5 months, from January to May, we've had a total of 66 applications across the 3 townships we serve. And so that has basically been about 63.5% of 2020's total in less than the first half of the year. Now, we say January to May, some of those do include reports for June, because the majority of the work on the file and the report has to be done in advance of the agenda being posted. So we are continuing to see an increase in the number of applications that we receive. What's not shown here on this slide, but that I would like to speak to as well, is the work that the county does for plans of subdivision and plans of condominium. So there was the Ardoch Lake plan of condominium for North Frontenac that received final approval late last year. And we currently have a number of active plan of subdivision files for South Frontenac. Tonight, obviously, we heard a public meeting for Willowbrook, but there is also the technical review for the Sunbury subdivision is currently underway. And we just received the clearance letter from the Township of South Frontenac for Johnson's Point. So we're looking forward to being able to go through that and clear conditions and hopefully move to final approval for that subdivision as well. So that work continues in addition to the other applications for those 3 townships. And there are also a number of inquiries as well. So inquiries are quite high. That has not been abnormal for really any municipality, I think, in Ontario over the last year with the pandemic. People cannot travel, so instead they are looking at purchasing properties, to get out of cities, to have vacation properties, to have rental properties for income. So the level of inquiries that we have and we continue to receive is quite high. For formal pre-applications, normally probably 3 to 5 meetings every week and at least 25 inquiries per week. And these numbers, they don't include follow-up questions after an initial inquiry or questions about active applications. And it also doesn't take into account the hours that township staff may spend responding to inquiries. I know particularly in North and Central Frontenac, there are staff at the township who are sort of frontline that field a lot of these questions and then bring the county planning staff on when needed. So there's certainly been a lot of interest in all of the townships within the county of Frontenac for development, severances, new business inquiries, and just development on properties, particularly waterfront properties. And I think that's it for me. Thank you, Joe. Back to you.
Thank you very much. And just before I speak to this slide, Sonia mentioned Johnson Point in South Frontenac. And just quickly for the committee, you're probably aware it's been a long process. It was subject to appeal. It's taken up a lot of staff time, more so with the township staff than county staff in the last year. Just a reminder that final approval of plans of condominium and subdivision have been delegated to our office. And so I just, particularly for Councillor Vanderwall, I want to let the committee aware that we expect in the next 2 weeks, Sonia and I will be sitting down with Claire from South Frontenac to go over all the piles of paperwork we just received today and last week. And we'll go through it all, and we'll go through all the conditions and hopefully grant final approval before the end of the month. I think that's going to be done. So just so you're aware, Councillor Vanderwall, if anyone asks you, I want to make sure you're aware of that. So yeah, some of the ongoing work at the county, the communal servicing study, and again, the mayors are very well aware of this work, and they were very much involved in the governance committee. And the governance committee and county council, as you know, endorsed the final piece, setting up a governance municipal service corporation in May. As part of that recommendation, county council asked all 4 townships to also agree to that, and North, Central, and the Islands have all done so as of May 2021. My understanding is South Frontenac will be considering it sometime this month, so we may have a definitive answer from South Frontenac by the end of the month. And then we are working on a proposed business plan, which is required legislatively under the Municipal Act. You have to have a business plan. It has to be reviewed by the public to set up this utility. And that draft plan will be reviewed by township staff and the governance committee prior to council. And we expect that to happen before September. Next, please. Central Frontenac official plan. Again, we started work on that in 2018. 6 open houses, 1 public meeting that was held on May 18th. And I'm working on trying to get the final revisions based on public comments to Township Council, either their last meeting of this month or early July. And should that be adopted by Township Council, it will come forward to the county in September. The other project we've been working on with township staff is redevelopment of the Sharbert Lake School site. Township Council agreed to apply for funding under the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the Green Municipal Fund, for them to provide 50% funding on doing an engineering feasibility study to look at developing that 2-acre site on communal services. FCM just finally supported the grant about 3 months ago. I'm currently working with the CAO of Central Frontenac, Ms. Kathy McMunn, to finalize the paperwork on that, hoping to release the RFP on the township website for that study before the end of the month. And that work could start as early as next month, probably will take part of the summer, and that will include a public consultation session with the public once we know exactly what kind of density can go on that site with communal services. Next, please. Marysville secondary plan. We're expecting to have 1 final public review with council this summer. Should council sign off on that, we'll be looking at an official plan amendment for implementation. And again, that secondary plan, it recommends an expansion of the boundaries of the village, and it recommends all new development in Marysville be done on communal services. So you see the importance of trying to get this utility set up. That'll make a real difference for Marysville. We're also working on a site alteration bylaw for Frontenac Islands. It would be the first of this type of bylaw in Frontenac County. And as the Mayor Dorwell knows, there's been some issues of people filling in their lots and waterfront and resulting in impacts on their neighbors. So we have worked on some drafts, and we'll have that back to council sooner rather than later. Next, please. We're also now working with Frontenac Islands on updating their development charges. There is an update to the existing DC bylaw. It has been posted on the township's website. We'll be working on a brand new bylaw later this summer. And it's the new bylaw will be dealing with the expected population growth in Marysville. Sonia and other county staff worked recently with township staff in North Frontenac to update their community improvement plan based on recommendations from the township's economic development committee and to allow for more grant funding for businesses. And that is now in place, I believe. Next, please. Township planning fees reviews. So this is a really important issue. You've seen the number of hours we've put in. Sonia and our team are going to be working with township staff and eventually township councils to look at changing the fees for planning, in part to cover the costs of our services, but also in part to make a decision on who should pay for the growth. Should it be every taxpayer in the municipality, or should it be on the applicant who is using our time? So that is something that we expect to come forward into township council before the end of the year, and Sonia will be leading that. Next, please. And our budget for 2022. So based on the direction from our CAO and finance department, we have to have a first draft done by the end of this month, and we're working on that right now. I can advise the committee that there will be one project proposal coming forward expected from the planning side, and that it's an update to the natural heritage study, which has been delayed for 2 years because of the lack of time that we had available to us, but it's a significant update to the county official plan. And this draft plan will be presented to this committee before it goes to council, just like last year. Next. And that's the briefing. So I'm happy, and Sonia's here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thanks very much, Joe and Sonia. Do we have any questions for Joe or Sonia? Joe, the business plan that you're going to be presenting, that's your own business plan for going forward next year, is that correct?
It's going to be, so we do it joint. We have a business plan that includes both sides of the department, planning and economic development, but I'll be bringing the planning side forward to the committee, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Joe? Well, thank you very much. It's quite the charts. Looks like you've been very busy, and I'm glad we have the 3 planners working for you on that to get through this, and look forward to your the way forward on how we're going to handle it, both financially and administratively. So look forward to that discussion.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
So we have no reports, no communications, no other. Is there any other business that any member of the committee wants to bring forward? Okay, I see none. Next meeting, I don't have a meeting date in my calendar. Do we have meetings set for the rest of the year, Joel?
If Jeanette has that, we're definitely going to need to have a committee meeting before our budget goes to county council. There possibly may be a public meeting on a subdivision. I know Sonia is working with South Frontenac staff on another file in South Frontenac in Sunbury. Not sure where we are with that file. So
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair. I think the intent of having the meeting today was we've canceled the one that was originally scheduled for July. And then I think the next anticipated one would be in September. I don't have the exact date, but it would likely be sort of in the first half of September. We will certainly circle back with the committee though and confirm that in advance.
If I can make a suggestion, Sonia, you need to provide a report on Willowbrook to council. Do we need to meet on that, or is that just a report that's coming to council? Or does it have to come through this committee? I believe we said it has to come through the committee first.
Yes, you're correct. So that is correct. So we will have to take the final report to this committee. I would have to say it would depend on how long the remainder of the technical review takes. It's certainly my hope that it will not take that long, but you're correct. We may have to call a meeting in advance of September to hear that publicly, or to bring that final report to this committee prior to taking it to council. But again, we would be sure to give you a few weeks heads up.
Okay, can I suggest that we have the next meeting at the call of the chair? And then Sonia or Joe, you can let me know, and then we can set up a date prior to a council meeting. So it's not too long between the committee meeting and the council. Does that sound
Great.
fair to everybody?
It does, yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you. I know
Okay, so
councilors
next
don't like to
meeting
meet
will
in
be at
August.
the-
Sorry.
Okay. So we'll leave it at that then. We'll, next meeting will be at the call of the chair. Won't be longer than 3 months, but we'll leave it at that for now, if that's okay with everybody. So with that, motion to adjourn. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Deputy Warden and Councillor Smith. All in favor? And we're carried. Well, thank you very much, everybody, and thanks for the update on the report. And have a great summer, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good to see everyone.
You too.
Thank you very much.
Next meeting is going to be live and in person.
Of course. See you next Wednesday
You
in
hear that,
person.
Kelly?